Alrighty, so first thing what I like to do is make sure that I have a clean canvas to work on. Clean meaning, you know, free of your makeup, any kind of excess oils. Also making sure that you scrub. I really like to use the St. Ives, just regular old basic scrub. So I use that first by hand. I don't use a Clarisonic or anything like that. And then because it is January and the heat's been on, and it's just dry all the way around, I really like to use this Naturewell Clinical Collagen Intense Moisture Cream. It's very thick when you put it on, and once you rub it in, it actually absorbs into your skin really well. So I like to use this because it's a little bit thicker for winter months when your skin is actually, might be kind of patchy, a little bit dry in some places. So this is what I use during the winter time. I got this from Sam's Club. I want to say it was maybe like $15 or something, but it's huge. It's like a pound of cream. It comes in a collagen formula like this, vitamin C, argan oil, there's coconut oil. In any case, there's a whole different array of different types that you can try, but this one's been my favorite so far. Otherwise, for a lightweight moisturizer, I use something with SPF in it. Doesn't matter what time of the year, so I layer that underneath and then I put this on top, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter as long as you get it on your face. So skincare is really important. Otherwise, during the rest of the year, I might use something like this Ultra Repair Cream from First Aid Beauty, or I use the Garnier Fructis one. Just something kind of simple. It doesn't really matter as long as your skin's moisturized and hydrated and you don't have like flaky, patchy parts coming off. Then I start with a primer. I make sure that for the winter months, again, I like to look a little bit more glowy than usual because usually my skin's very matte and sucks up just about anything. And then my T-zone tends to be a little oily. So I try to use a little bit of the Professionals right through over where my cheeks are and my pores are a little bit larger, and right through the T-zone where I tend to get oily. And then I use the L'Oreal Paris Magic Lumi Light Infusing Primer all over the rest of my cheeks and everything, so it looks a little bit more shimmery, glowy, but it's not like glitter in your face. And today we are testing out the Vanish Hourglass Seamless Foundation Stick. So this, I ordered it online. I actually got the shade Sand, which tends, because during the winter time I tend to be just a little bit lighter than the summer, and it looks like this shade, got that shade. So most of them, they have a really good array of colors for you to choose from. I want to say there were probably at least like 15 that I saw. Online there may be some more, but definitely go into the store to try it on, because even if you think you know what your color is going to look like and you go on Google and you do a quick search for the brand that you're looking for and all the shades and who it's on and what it's on, it's probably not going to give you something really accurate, because undertones, they have things from as warm as like to golden tan yellowy undertone to something more neutral, and even to something a little bit more pink. So I would say definitely go into the store to find out what shade you are. Alright, so I'm going to start with just a little bit more moisturizer. My forehead seems to be really patchy lately, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit, and like this much is going to go a long way all over your face. I'll get everywhere, like all over your neck, your brows. And once that's all nice and rubbed in and you don't feel anything kind of sitting right on top of your skin, go in with the Professionals Pro Balm to minimize the appearance of your pores. So we're gonna do that. Maybe like a half a penny size. I don't really use that much on a day-to-day basis. If it's something more like a wedding reception, or you know, something you're dressing up a little bit more for, I put it all over just because I like to look like a plastic doll. Especially for brides, I try to make sure I get it everywhere, because you want to make sure through pictures and the heat from the lights and people smudging all over your face, things don't move. So I just kind of go over those areas and try to make sure you get around your nose into that area a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go in with my L'Oreal Paris Magic Lumi Light Infusing Primer. So obviously I don't wear foundation on my hands, so I'm going to show you side by side. This is my hand that doesn't have anything on it. This is my hand that has the primer on it. So you see how you get like a sheen, but it's not glittery. Dang, my hands look like see-through here. Okay, so anyways, so you see how you get like this nice reflective quality? This is like me holding my hand tight, but still you can see the difference from both sides. So it almost kind of blurs things a little bit. So that's why I really like it. So if any of you guys are doing makeup on your moms or somebody maybe over the age of, you know, even 35, this is a great primer to use underneath your foundation because it really helps to make sure that whatever makeup you use on them, it's not going to look super mattifying. It looks just a little bit more like nice, glowy, healthy skin that's got some moisture and suppleness to it. And I even go in over my forehead a little bit. So it took you a whole 2 minutes to prime your face. And that's excessive. On a regular basis, I don't use as much primer. In fact, every day for work, I don't use a primer. So this is just something you can do to make it look a little extra pretty. All right, so next we're gonna go in with the foundation stick. So what I like to do is, if this was something I'm using on somebody else, it goes on a brush and then goes on their face, or I can use the stick and then wipe it off. So this is just my personal stick. So I'm gonna make little zebra lines all over the place. And my skin is like bizarre because it's like light colored through the cheek and then it gets a little like tan golden looking here and then it gets really dark right there and then around the corners of the mouth. So I like to go for something a little bit more yellowish and that seems to do really well for me. If I do something really pink, I start to look really, really ashy really fast. So again, this is really creamy as soon as I'm putting it on. I want to make sure that you guys understand something. When you use a stick versus a liquid, the concept is the same. Don't go crazy no matter what because it's harder to take it off. So start with a little bit and don't push with all your might. Just kind of just let it glide on your skin. If it's not gliding, you can add a little bit more moisturizer and primer to your skin to make it a little bit more slick, but don't overdo it with it because once that sinks into your pores, it's kind of difficult to move it around all over the place. So start with a little bit and go for a little bit more coverage as you need it. So I'm gonna start right here in the chin. My forehead's not that big, so I don't try to put too much on it. I just kind of dot it through, and then more on the side, and kind of right underneath here. And that's all I'm gonna do to start with. So here's the big difference. When I use a stick foundation, I like to have a flat kabuki brush to blend everything out with. When I use a foundation that's a liquid, sometimes depending on the consistency, the thinner it is, I like to use a stippling brush. If it's really creamy and a little bit more thick like this, I like to go in with a kabuki brush because I feel like it just kind of moves the product around a little bit better. Otherwise with a stippling brush, there's nothing wrong if you want to use that. The stippling brush just makes it so that you are working twice as hard for the same end result. So this is just a little bit easier. So I like to just pat it around and kind of beat it into your skin. You're gonna beat your face. That is high coverage. And obviously this is like totally different color than my neck. So I'm gonna go in to my neck in a second once I get everything blended out. Typically, again, this is really extra that I'm gonna like stick it on my neck. But I usually just go in with whatever is left on my brush and I just pull it down. And always remember, go and get the corners of your nose, because if you don't, you're gonna get some weird lines. So I'm gonna go all the way down with whatever's left on my brush first, and then I'm gonna add some more. I have a little scar here I'm gonna cover. I'm gonna just dot this. I'm actually not pulling it around, I'm just kind of stamping it. So we're gonna buff that, and this part I really don't care. It's not gonna end up looking too streaky because I didn't put a whole lot of product on there. If you start to look streaky and cakey when you put your foundation on, A, you probably put too much on, B, you probably didn't blend it in well. So just like I said, ease into it. A little bit goes a long way. I know everybody thinks they need to slap it on like cream, but don't do that. And remember to get your ears, because you want your ears to look about the same in terms of color. So now what I do, whatever again is left over under here, I'm gonna go right over my eyeballs. So that is the actual foundation. Now I'm gonna go back in, I'm gonna color correct a little bit, I'm gonna do my concealer, and then I'll go back in with a little bit more coverage if I need it. But otherwise, that'll be pretty much our foundation. And then we'll do a little bit of very light contour highlighting because I don't just do a flat face usually if I'm doing foundation. And just right off the bat, this foundation feels kind of creamy, a little on the thick side, but not in a terrible way. But I'm gonna give it a second to just kind of dry and see if that feels any better. But it does feel a little bit thick and we didn't put that much on either. I'm gonna go in and make sure I've absorbed everything. So typically I like using a beauty blender and I hate using a beauty blender because it takes an extra couple steps to go dampen the sponge and then use the sponge and then clean the sponge. I would just much rather use a brush. So typically for that problem, I don't use a beauty blender unless I have to use a liquid foundation. Unless it looks like it's really just not blending very well, then I'll go in with that with a little bit of argan oil on it or some other facial oil or some pep and prime spray. All right, so next we're gonna go in with the LA Girls, my favorite color corrector of all time because it's $5, is the Pro Conceal Concealer in Orange. I don't mess with dark circles. Not my friend. I almost would rather use a red lipstick than one of these salmon colored. It doesn't do anything for me. So go hard or go home with this. So if you are intimidated by using a little bit of orange, that's okay. You can always use just a little bit and then apply more. Play with it at home. It's not as hard to blend as you would think it would be. Okay, so I'm just gonna blend that in just a little bit. All I'm doing is making sure it covers the areas that are a little bit dark. You don't have to go up to your lash line like me. That's a little excessive. I just like to make sure I drag it everywhere because my dark circles aren't just dark little circles. They're like huge crescents underneath. So I tend to go a little higher with it. But remember, when you're gonna do your eyeshadow too, to balance out what you do on top, you should be doing a little bit of it on the bottom. When you do that, you have to make sure that you leave a little bit of wiggle room to darken up your lash line. So you don't have to necessarily go up so high with your concealer and your corrector that you're up at your lashes. Just gonna stay a little bit below that. If I was to use a beauty blender, this is where I would use it because I find that these products are just a little extra dry sometimes, or they dry really quickly. So I find that if I use a beauty blender for that with a little bit of moisture on it, it's a little more forgiving if you're trying to get that product to blend. Next, we're gonna go in with my concealer. My two favorite, well, I have three favorites. I love concealers. You just can't find a good concealer. When you do, you hold it close. Okay, so right now, my all-time ride or die favorite, clearly, it's like half empty, is the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer in NC42. My shade is usually NC35 for foundation in MAC. I typically don't like my under eyes to look so bright that there's flashback in the picture. I like it to look almost as natural as I can get it because they are kind of dark. So the 42 is actually, you would think it would be much darker in person, especially my shade being 35. It's actually not that dark. It actually looks really pretty and it brightens under the eye, and it's a little teeny tiny bit orangey too. So if you need dark circle help, like me, this is really good to use. You could go maybe one shade darker if you're maybe like an NC 40 something, I want to say, in foundation, but try it. If you haven't tried it, get a little sample from their stand and just try it out at home. So I just put a little bit on the back of my hand, and while I'm putting that on, let me tell you, this one I think is usually, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's between $18 to $24. The Sephora brand, which I really like right now also, is called Butterscotch. And I feel like it's just as thin. The coloring is slightly different. I really enjoy a concealer that doesn't cost an arm and a leg and it lasts a long time. So I like the applicator a little bit better than the Sephora one because it's your standard wand, just like the one for the Urban Decay one. And then I like the formula of the MAC better, but it's actually it's not as creasy as some concealers, the Sephora one. It's just a little bit more yellow. Finding your shade is a little bit harder. So I like the orange one because it's easier for me to blend into my dark circles, but when it's kind of yellowy, it kind of turns ashy under my under eyes. I was gonna say my purple eyes, which is completely correct too. So I usually try to use this on a day where I've done this underneath, but if it's something really extra special, I use my MAC concealer because I feel like it's just better coverage. Now the Urban Decay concealer is actually really nice as well. I just find that one is the wrong shade for this time of year. It's a little too dark for me, so I just try to stay away from that. I like my under eyes to be more bright than they are light. Does that make sense? Like, I want them to look like my under eyes. I don't want them to look like a sun under each eye where it's so bright you have to go, oh, that's like harsh. All right, so now that I've got my eyes kind of corrected a little bit, now what I'm gonna go in is with my foundation brush. I haven't added any foundation. I'm gonna blend that in because when I set it, I'm gonna set it with like a slightly yellow powder, and it's mixed in with the Ben Nye Banana powder and the Airspun translucent powder, and that actually balances out my skin tone a little bit better. So I'm gonna go in with this. If it's still a little orange, I'm gonna throw in a little bit more foundation and be done with the thing. Again, you can use your beauty blender here. I just don't care to get up, wet it, and stick it under my eye, and then go clean it again. So now I've got a slight orange tint here. I'm gonna go in with my foundation. That's why I only go in with a little bit of foundation at the beginning, because you're probably gonna have to put a little bit on anyway once you're correcting things, and that way you're not cake face at the end of it in a bad way. There's a good kind of cake face, but this would not be good. All right, that's all we're gonna use there. We're gonna blend it in, and like I said, I don't blend all the way up to my eyeball lash line area. If it's foundation and it's concealer, it's staying kind of low, unless it's my corrector. That I take all the way up, because you know, like I said, when you put on your eyeshadow and smudge out the bottom lash line, it's gonna change the look completely. That's there-ish. I'm gonna set that with some powder. Let me do my eyebrows. All right, so it's amazing how like filling in your eyebrows makes you feel like a whole person, like a whole person. So as you can see, we've got our contour, we've got our blush, we've got our highlight, we've got our under eyes color corrected, set our face. The only thing I haven't done to my face is add a little bit of Urban Decay finishing spray or a setting. Any spray will do, really. If you've used these techniques to set your face, usually the spray is not the make it or break it deal. It's just an extra little bit of insurance. But otherwise, this is the face. So this is how you do your foundation. If you have any questions, leave them below. If you want to see me finish the rest of the face, I'm going to make another video on how to do a warm brown daytime wearing eye that you can do with possibly some lashes. So keep watching for that, and I will see you guys soon. All right, so that is how you do your foundation. I know that was a little bit more in depth. If you're looking for a quick go-to, I mean, the basics are just make sure you exfoliate, you get a smooth canvas, make sure you moisturize so that things don't look patchy. Make sure when you're doing your makeup that you use a little bit less than what you really think you need, because you can go in and add a little bit more always. And make sure that when you use your foundation, you use a brush that's appropriate for it, so that way you're not doing twice as much work that you don't need to be doing, and that makes your whole process speed up a little bit. Color correcting is so important. It does not take that long. So I use an orange corrector base for the purple dark circles underneath my eyes. And then on top of that, when you're doing your makeup, just make sure that you take a step back and look at it, as well as up close, because sometimes things look a little bit different when you're far away. And as you start to do more of that, you'll get a better handle on it. So making sure you know how to do a couple of those things. So if you have any questions or you want something even more in depth than that, definitely leave those comments below, and I will see you guys soon.